So I believe we have a very good mass of attendees, so we can start. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Distinguished members of the Faith for Earth Interfaith Women Council, esteemed colleagues, I hope you can hear me well. It's truly an honor to welcome you to this important gathering with our esteemed Executive Director of UNEP, Ms. Inger Andersen. Today, we are privileged to be joined by, I hope, 21 of the 24 remarkable women who have confirmed their attendance of this meeting and who form this council. Two council members have indicated that they are trying to connect. One is on a flight, the other one is in the field, and the third one has sent her apologies as she has a prior commitment. Distinguished leaders, you come from as far as New Zealand to California, representing 6 continents, 16 religions and spiritualities and congregations. You span all ages and represent a multi-sectoral spectrum, showcasing the diversity and power of women's leadership in advancing environmental stewardship. Your presence and leadership are a testament to the transformative power of women in advancing faith-based environmental action. Friends, this will be a wisdom sharing session where we will hear from you up to 3 minutes, I hope, from each in alphabetical order. I will try my best to make it seamless. I will mention each name and as we go along without introduction, as your names say it all, but of course we will share your profiles on the chat. Additionally, please note that we are recording this session. Your wisdom and insights are essential, and this recording will help us extend the reach of your perspectives to an eagerly awaiting network that seeks inspiration and guidance from your leadership. With your support and the support of all of our partners, the Faith for Earth Coalition has grown into a dynamic and impactful movement thanks to the tireless efforts of leaderships and leaders like yourselves. Together, we have established the 5 councils of the faith leaders, the women leaders, the youth leaders, scientific leaders, and a community from 90 accredited faith-based organizations to UNEP. We've published groundbreaking knowledge on religion and ecology, launched online courses to broaden individual and institutional engagement, and built a global network of over 8,000 faith actors. We have proudly hosted historical faith pavilions during major climate change, biodiversity, and desertification conventions, organized high-level multi-sectoral interfaith summits, and mobilized initiatives at global, regional, and national levels. Our partnerships now span dozens of international organizations committed to sustainability and environmental action. These achievements are a testament to the power of faith-based collaboration for the planet. Distinguished leaders, we are especially grateful to Ms. Inger Andersen for her presence today. Despite her demanding schedule, she has graciously set aside 60 minutes to engage with us. Beyond her globally recognized leadership in environmental action, Ms. Andersen holds a special place in my own professional journey. One of her great achievements, as I see it, was recruiting me 27 years ago. Of course, I won't be disclosing her age or mine, but you can assume that we were both in high school at that time. Without further ado, it is my great privilege to introduce a leader whose dedication to sustainability and collaboration continues to inspire us all, Ms. Inger Andersen, Executive Director of UNEP. Inger, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. And I don't deserve any of those words, but can I just say to all the leaders who are present here, thank you. Thank you for the leadership. Thank you for your spirit. Thank you for your determination. Thank you for your contribution. And thank you for being a voice that is needed within the faith community and across the faith communities and within the environment community. I think it's fair to say that when women stand up and stand up together across continents, across languages, across religions, and across cultures, we are and the world is stronger. And I think we also understand that it is in many times and many places where women are particularly exposed to the environmental dangers. And so that voice matters and matters a lot. 2025 is the year when we are 30 years after the Beijing conference. And some of you may recall that conference back 30 years ago in Beijing. It looked at women's rights, it looked at equity, it looked at a number of dimensions which today largely have landed in legal frameworks. But it also began to shine a light on women in environment. Not on the faith dimension, this is where we come in and you come in, but on the overarching issue of women leadership, women rights, and of course, women and environmental action. And so we do not want to see women only as victims of environmental destruction, which often they are, and we are, but also as the leaders that we also are. And so when we look at when women stepped into leadership, and we can always find the exceptions to the rule, then often we will find that pollution is more managed, abatement is happening, forests are more protected, etc. And that goes from whether we are at the very community level, if women are given half the voice, or even if they're given land rights, to the heads of state level, or to the ministerial level, or indeed to any level, we see that then there is a greater understanding. Now, of course, because women are often, in most societies, the stewards of the home and therefore the stewards of managing that which takes care of health and well-being of the family. Not taking anything away from our male partners goes without saying, but nevertheless. And so this inequity that we have seen across many leadership segments is one that we worry about because we know that environmental stewardship takes more of a foreground when women are equally, or at least close to equally represented. And your good selves have been willing to journey with us in the Faith for Earth community and been willing to step up in this women leadership in faith-based environmental action. And for us, that is very, very meaningful and indeed very, very powerful. And so I really want to thank you for that. We, of course, know that some 80% of the world subscribes to a religion and therefore has will have a deeper moral and ethical journey when in how we interact with planet Earth. And I think that fact that so many of the world's population still find themselves rooted in faith becomes so important then to also express what the various faiths say about stewardship and ask its followers to do in terms of environmental stewardship. And so this empowerment dimension becomes critical. And we see across, whether it's in the secular parliaments or whether it's elsewhere, we see where women have greater participation, then we have a greater likelihood of that environmental stewardship. In fact, it's very interesting because where we have higher female parliamentary representation across the world, we are more likely to see a ratification of environmental treaties, which is a fascinating fact, but there we have it. But we also know that there's a long journey ahead because female CEOs of companies, including of companies that are significant pollutants, is very, very low. But we do see, and this is fascinating again, and there's an example from India where analysis has shown that where you have the election of female legislators in states in India, then we've seen a reduction, a significant over 10% reduction in crop burning. And that's, of course, because women are often those who then have to worry about household, about kids going out. Not that the fathers do not, but I hope you understand what I'm saying here. And so the point is that empowered women of faith, like your good selves, you can move mountains. And I think what we would like to see is, of course, that women who are leading, whether at the global level, like you, whether at the national level, or whether at the local level, both in secular as well as in religious contexts, are really given the space by the law, by the media, by public opinion, by community, and yes, by their husbands. And so that becomes important at times even by their sons. And so that issue of environmental stewardship and female leadership is something that is very important. For us, this multi-faith, women-led network that you form has really enabled exchanges of information, stories, lessons learning, practices that have worked, and of course, exchange to really accelerate a degree of progress towards the goals that the world has set, be it on the climate front, be it on the nature front, and land degradation, restoration front, or be it on the reduction of pollution front. Each of these matters, we speak about that triple planetary crisis, and looking at all of these three in a very interconnected way is important. And understanding that it is our interaction, our one species interaction with the environment that is causing the environmental problem. No other species lives out of harmony with nature in terms of its waste and its emissions, quote unquote. It lives in perfect harmony. Only our species does not. And therefore, understanding that our unsustainable stewardship, our unsustainable production and consumption is part of the reason why we're seeing land degradation, desertification, biodiversity loss, forest loss on the land and biodiversity side, climate change, be it in terms of impact or be it in terms of warming, and of course, pollution and waste. And so we ask of all these women present here to please continue what you do in your faith communities, and to, of course, connect as appropriate, of course, with your communities, but also across communities on these issues. I think we issued recently a guide for building women of faith networks, which very much underscore that women of faith are actively in work on the very front lines of these environmental challenges. And as council members, I know that you will all be engaging in promoting gender issues and environmental action in the religious dialogues and expand that network of action for environmental protection. And of course, I also know that we're living in complex times. There are conflicts that are unacceptable in terms of the human catastrophes that these conflicts are inflicting upon those who live in such settings, be it in Democratic Republic of Congo, the DRC, in the West Bank and in Gaza, in Israel, as well as in Lebanon. So we have, and of course, Ukraine, and I could go on. We, UNEP, we are not a political organization, but we know that even when the guns stop, there are often decades of destruction, of debris, of unexploded ordnance, and of complexity in terms of environmental pollution. We were on the ground in the Balkans after that war. We were on the ground in the Gulf after the first Gulf War and the second. We are on the ground, and we were in Iraq and Syria. We were on the ground in Sierra Leone and Liberia. We are on the ground in Sudan, and so on and so forth. And of course, we are on the ground in Ukraine. The point being that conflict is, or the opposite, peace, has to be part of the environmental agenda. And there surely are better way at resolving human conflict than destroying our planet and destroying one another. And so I recognize that there are at times irreconcilable issues, but issues also that women of faith can speak on without getting embroiled in the politics, but speaking to the very real issue of keeping our land safe, our environment steady, and our stewardship whole as we engage with our communities, with our religious faith, and across them. So with that, let me thank very much the Interfaith Council of Women, who have worked so hard and are working so hard, as I said, within your communities, also to generate intergenerational dialogue and dialogue amongst and between the communities. Thank you very much. I'll hand it back now to Iyad.
And we thank you, Inger, for all the support that you have been providing over the many years of the existence of the Faith for Earth Coalition. I have been receiving messages that some of the council members are having problems connecting, so we will play it as we go, and we're trying to connect them. As I mentioned, we will start giving the floor to the distinguished members in alphabetical order. So I see that Dr. Aisha Abdullah is online. So Dr. Aisha, if you can take the floor, please.
Hello, everybody. I'm glad for you inviting me and being part of this group. And I'm looking forward to contributing very well to this community, inshallah. I'm Aisha Abdullah. My background is in ecological leadership and environmental education. I'm founder of inaugural, Embrace the Earth and Thrive with Nature. In inaugural, we are dedicated to providing transformative ecological leadership programs and services that deepen participants' connection to the natural world. Our activities are designed to help us recognize humanity's place within the intricate web of life, foster junior relationships with the places we explore and their inhabitants, and nurture ecosystems to remain vibrant and untamed. In Akal Earth, the reason it was born, I was visiting lots of places in Saudi Arabia and elsewhere. These places, within a short period of time, start having degradations. So instead of seeing flowers, instead of seeing the birds, instead of seeing the rocks and without garvides, these places changed. So when I was looking for the reasons and so on, I couldn't find lots of literacies or programs that educate people not to do this kind of things. So most of these things, I would say, the damage is that reaching the natural areas and people going and continuing doing these things, lack of awareness is exist. Even yesterday, I was invited in one of the educational fairs to conduct, to present inaugural to the society. With me were some animals that I created especially for this event, starting, first time I'm kind of presenting it in that event. 6 different animals. These animals, when I brought them, as for a coloring purposes, none of the audience there recognized more than one animal from the animals that we have. Although we read about these animals during school years, but they didn't experience these things. So if parents did not recognize these animals and so on, how would their children be recognized these things? Media didn't give enough attention for them to appreciate local native animals that's very important for the ecosystem. When I do art workshop with the students and so on, I find them a lot. And most of my students, by the way, either mothers or children and families too. And they know more about elsewhere's animals and so on, but they don't know and they don't appreciate the ones we have in our culture or ecosystem. So in inaugural art, we hope and we're doing our best to make people understand and appreciate living beings and care for them. So we have four different themes in inaugural art. One is exploring nature. We're doing trips to connect people with the natural areas. In our trips, we use the scientific things with cultural things. And of course, we add the religion ethics that we learn, incorporate in our trips so people will build the spiritual connection with the things. And we have awareness workshops. In awareness workshop, we teach, for example, one of our awareness workshops is very specialized. For example, one of the things we have is called permaculture. In permaculture, we teach people to grow plants in a way, in a groups, the way they see in nature. In nature, most we see are communities, are everything kind of take and give. So balancing the things, soils need to be enriched, plants need to grow in good ways. So these kind of things, designing in the way of nature, how it's putting itself, we're trying to implement that through the permaculture things. And the what kind of pollinators and what plants bring the pollinators and which plants that nourish which plants, and this kind of concepts we're implementing in our permaculture classes. And we are also doing something called biophobia to biophilia. This biophobia to biophilia, we notice many people kill animals with just hearing bad informations about them, or just because they misuse thinking that the animal's fault. So we were trying through that, change their mindset and make them realize the values of that creature, whichever that we bring to the class at that day, and learn about its value in terms of ecological ways and in terms of spiritually, how it's seen culturally, all these kind of things we try to tell them. And many times we were succeeded in transforming people's fear into appreciating the creatures. And I will list all the things we have. I will move to the another activity we have is called Walk Gently on the Earth. We have Tending the Earth campaigns. In Tending the Earth campaigns, for example, one of the things in Chad, where I'm originally from, they have seasonal problems, and they're always complaining about malaria's problems and so on. So we're trying to educate people. Okay, the sources of the malaria, for example, mosquitoes. Mosquitoes, they need water to breed, but that indicates there is a unbalanced ecosystem there. So we, for example, it needs huge effort to make the things become very effective, but in small scales, people could build like water fish tanks in their homes where they could install freshwater fishes, which exist there, and mosquitoes need water to grow, to lay their eggs. So that these fishes could eat the mosquitoes' eggs, make the things in controlled balance, and the people also themselves could eat these kind of things. And we're also communicating with mosques and so on to raise the values of the taking care of nature through the ethics of Islam and so on. So we've been doing a lot of things. If you are, I think I passed my time, so we could go on later in another occasion.
Thank you very much, Dr. Aisha. Thank you. I turn now to Reverend Ann Birchab. Please, Reverend Ann, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Well, first of all, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It is very good to see many fellow women faith leaders here with whom I have come together or had the privilege to come together over the past few years. So very good to see you. Allow me to start with saying that for us, caring for creation is not just about saving the planet, but about living our faith. So today's climate emergency calls us to reimagine our relationship with God's creation
and not simply as an ethical duty, but as an expression of a shared spiritual journey. As Lutherans and as a representative of Lutheran World Federation, we stand on the shoulders of reformers who defended the role of science and politics. So they did not build walls between faith and science, but they built bridges. And now, as we face unprecedented environmental challenges, these principles can light the way. Our world needs more than just scientific solutions or political agreements, which are, of course, also extremely important, as we know. But it needs a holistic approach where faith, science, and policy work in harmony. So, guided by our commitment to the dignity of all and the care for creation, we are called to turn hope into action through our action for justice. Now, we have a number of activities at the Lutheran World Federation where we try to advance climate justice and also climate resilient livelihoods, to support climate resilient livelihoods. But I will try to be brief and choose just one example, as we were asked to do so. Let me share an action that we took or started to take in 2020. And this is namely by empowering young people and supporting grassroots innovation. In 2022, we launched small-scale grants for climate justice, which are implemented in our member churches. That means that the young people are among those who raise awareness in their communities for climate justice and also for the special toll that climate change takes on women, for instance, in several contexts. And among the youth implementing the small projects, we have many very inspiring young women leaders. And it has been really quite amazing to see how much impact has been reached by this actually very simple measure of implementing small-scale climate justice projects. So let me just bring a very few figures and examples. For instance, altogether, young leaders have mobilized over 11,000 people of faith through 92 learning events and workshops by this measure. 77 innovative projects have been implemented across 43 countries, and they include training green champions in South Africa, workshops on biodiversity that also involved tree planting in Jordan and the Holy Lands, equipping young people in Peru to lead campaigns on pollution and deforestation in the Amazon area, training young people for climate advocacy and connecting them with nature in Romania. But behind the numbers of projects that we have been carrying out, there are stories of hope. These young people help to shape, in the end, national climate policies. They help to change the mindset of their communities. And each initiative weaves together faith, action, and justice. So the LWF member churches are not just witnessing or living through the climate emergency, but they are actually leading the response and taking concrete steps towards the sustainable future we all dream of. We must walk the talk as individuals, as communities, as churches, so that, and as any religious community, so that creation can flourish. And it is so important that we really manage to implement on the ground, because we have also produced many, I believe, very helpful guidelines and very supporting documents. So there is material, plenty of material available for those who would like to use it and base their actions on that. But if we remain only on the level of guidelines and don't help to implement, then we miss out part of our holistic mission. So thank you. I stop here, and I hope I remained within 3 minutes.
Thank you very much, Reverend Anne. And I move to Ms. Audrey Kitagawa, please.
Ms. Audrey, could you please open your microphone? You are muted. Thank you.
Okay, is that better?
Yes, now you're in.
Thanks. so much. I feel very honored to be with all of you. So thank you so very much for this convening. You know, women's perspectives on the environment arise from the intersection of their gender and lived experience and can inform holistic solutions for our complex challenges. And as we've already heard from the two speakers, there are so many vibrant participations going on, as well as initiatives going on all over the world. And I'm very happy to hear about the women leaders and the youth leaders as well. So as community leaders, educators, and caregivers, women support sustainable practices and mobilize grassroots movements that are really essential for transforming the social consciousness and creating changes at the community, national, and international levels. And the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change has noted that climate action requires 100% of the population. And not only does empowering women result in better climate solutions, but women are key to building climate resilience. And climate change affects everyone, but has greater impact on the vulnerable, creating greater inequality. And I'm also glad to hear Ms. Stevens indicate that women should not be viewed as victims only, but women are not only at greater risk, but they bear greater burdens from these impacts, and that is very factual. So particularly in rural areas, women and girls face disproportionate impacts from climate change because they do make up the majority of the world's poor who are highly dependent on local natural resources for their livelihood. And the work of the International Academy for Multicultural Cooperation has really worked towards amplifying the voices of women and showcasing their participation in environmental discussions and actions. And the perspectives of women and the sacred wisdom and practices of indigenous peoples were recently featured in topics such as the reclamation of the Klamath River in the state of California after a decades-long fight to remove dams that damaged the river ecosystems and denied the indigenous people from their primary food source of salmon. And I'm pleased to say that the salmon are running once again in this important river. And the Academy examined the role of indigenous women as protectors of the environment and Native American approaches to climate resilience. We also produced a short film about a women-led movement supporting ancient practices of Hawaii's coconut as a tree of life. And next week on February 5th, we were hosting an event entitled Ancient Sacred Traditions, Healing Wisdom for Modern Times. And we're featuring indigenous leaders from Hawaii, California, and Australia. So to really grasp the totality of the impact of the environment on different types of cultures and women around the world. And women are often inspired by the foundational moral and ethical teachings of their faith traditions, and the spiritual values of peace, harmony, sharing, and caring guide women in their daily lives and extend beyond their families to the children that they raise with faith and the moral ethical principles of their traditions. And these voices are needed now more than ever. And I really would like to express my deepest appreciation to UNEP and the Faith for Earth Interfaith Women's Council for inviting all of us to convene today and to continue the work as a group to show that women in their leadership capacity can really have far greater impact than if they are not at the table. So thank you so very much.
Thank you very much, Audrey. I move now to Dr. Azizan Bahruddin.
Yes. Trying to switch on my camera. It won't switch on, but my mic is on, right? Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good evening. And it's my great joy, pleasure, honor, privilege to see all of you on my screen tonight. And I wish this is a physical meeting, but I guess we are not able to do that now, yeah, Dr. Iyad. So thank you so much for inviting me to be a member of this council. And I am extremely excited to listen to all of the our colleagues' interventions just now and the explanations of what they're doing. So I hope I will be able to add on by describing to you what currently I'm doing. I've been with environmental ethics, teaching, research, and NGO, if you like, activism for the past 30 years or so. And I'm currently teaching, researching, and continuing the academic work at the University of Malaya. But I'm also very much active with the non-governmental organizations, both faith-based and non-faith-based, in terms of increasing the awareness. Like someone said just now, it's not just the theory. We have now to get down to the practical dimension. And I'm glad to say that that is happening quite actively now in the last 5 to 10 years. Then in the context of our country, as you all know, Malaysia is very multiracial, multi-religious. So I'm also very privileged to be working at the Center for Civilizational Dialogue, where we work constantly with faith leaders, both women and men, to work out common values, commonly accepted values vis-a-vis the environment. So we, just 2 days ago, I was with a Buddhist group, and we spoke about green economy, circular economy, and how principles like respect for all, not just concentrating on nature, but like somebody said also just now, we need to focus on the human being also. Oftentimes it's the human being that's not balanced. It's the human being that is quite vague or not clear as to who they are and what their function should be on the planet. So we also want to bring the humanities and social sciences together with the scientists to work out solutions. Then I think I have to mention the fact that at the policy level, we are very excited to try to influence the authorities in charge of mosques, temples, to uptake guidelines as explained in declarations such as Laudato Si, such as Al-Mizan, Islamic Declaration for Climate Change, and others from other faiths, to actually work with them and see what they actually can do on the ground. In terms of public understanding, it's still not satisfactory. You know, people are still just looking at the effects of climate change, floods, and you know, what do you call it, fires, and whatever, the rise in sea level, and all this. Most people just measure these things in terms of the economic effect. You know, what do we do now? Now we've got these floods, and let's collect the usuals to help the people. But there's not enough talk and explaining as to how everyone is involved in the causes, you know, of these events at the individual, global, national level. And I think that more advocacy, more narratives have to go out there. So finally, I think I have to share the fact that I also have the responsibility of holding the chair for sustainability at one of the local universities. And this chair is sustained by a company that has many thousands of acres of oil palms estates. Yeah. So as you know, in some parts of the West, there's a lot of bad press vis-a-vis these estates and plantations. But I'm very happy to share with you here that it's very honest and earnest and very hard work done by scientists, both social and pure scientists, engineers. You know, how to green, if you like, how to make this industry a sustainable one, so that we are both fair to the economic needs of the people, the farmers, and also we are fair to the planet. So I think I'll stop there, Dr. Iya. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Azizan. Dr. Azza Karam, please. And I will give a special treat for whoever stays within the 3 minutes.
Did I pass?
Unfortunately not.
No, okay.
Dr. Azza?
Yes, thank you. Greetings, greetings, Inger, and all delightful colleagues on this call. It's wonderful to see so many familiar faces and names without perhaps the faces yet, but wonderful to be with all of you. Thank you very much indeed, Dr. Iyad, for convening us in this special place. I only have 3 very quick points to share, since I know most of you and most of you know me. There's no point in me introducing myself and the issues that we're all committed to. Obviously, that's why we're all here. Point number 1, I think it's wonderful that UNEP is showing this commitment to an interfaith women's leadership in this environmental space. Thank you so much for that. Point number 2, I think it's extraordinarily important that this, and I did share this with Dr. Iyad with the very inception of this idea many, many years ago, that it is important this not be seen as a siloed category of engagement or involvement or attention or whatever it is. Within the broad ecosphere of UNEP itself, it is important that this community of women is actually integrated into the wider work and partnerships that UNEP is very capable and adept at convening and deploying, forgive the military term. So please let's not have this as a siloed area of work. Let's have meetings together, We know each other, most of us actually, and what's more valuable is to feel that we can be of service. At least I'm speaking for myself, I shouldn't speak for everybody, but I think it's very valuable to feel that one can be of service to the broader intentions and inclinations of UNEP. So that also does mean that, in a sense, I hope UNEP puts us in a position of accountability to working together in this space and beyond within the rest of UNEP's work. So no silos as much as possible. Let's look forward to being held accountable by one another, to working together much more, and also to, obviously, in service of the principles and the objectives that we all share, that UNEP upholds, but also to being able to work across the boundaries of different rights-based, environmental rights-based, but also secular and whatever. We are too siloed. The world around us is way too siloed. I hope this is not another silo. I look forward to this being a space of interaction and engagement and being held accountable as women of faith leaders, with male religious leaders, with other women and men and other leaders. I hope that we can be held accountable to one another. And I think that's part of the big value added that the UN brings to this table. In general, there's a lot of work going on already. But I think it's that accountability to one another and to serving and standing alongside and collaborating with one another. So looking forward very much to the service in this space, and chapeau for finally putting it together, and wishing you all the best in the endeavors forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Azza, for staying within the time. Ms. Bani Dogar? Bani, you are still muted. Bani, we don't hear you. We still can't hear you. Can we move to Ms. Barbara Gardner, please?
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please go ahead.
Lovely. Well, firstly, I just want to say how thrilled and deeply grateful I am to be here as a member of this wonderful initiative of the Interfaith Women's Council. Now, in your email, you asked us to discuss a project, and a key project that we're dealing with is to ensure that the nexus between animal welfare and the environment is recognised at the United Nations. Because caring for the planet and the environment starts with how we treat the other sentient beings that we share our beautiful planet with. And all faiths recognise and address this, although this is often forgotten in the current practice of our faiths. It's addressed by both Pope Francis in his encyclical on the environment, Laudato Si, and by its Islamic sibling, Al-Mizan. And while we treat animals cruelly and inhumanely, particularly in factory farming systems, we can never protect the environment, as so much environmental damage is caused by animal agriculture, including the destruction of rainforests, oceans, and other ecosystems, the pollution of seas, rivers, and the atmosphere, and global warming from carbon and methane emissions. And so much of our land is taken up to provide food for farmed animals, which is wasteful and feeds the rich whilst the poor still remain hungry. And also, we will never create a fair and just society where women, Indigenous people, and minorities are properly treated and respected, whilst our hearts are hardened by the way we treat other sentient beings, which is often with extreme cruelty and brutality, as happens in the animal agriculture industry. And we're also concerned with how animals are used for testing medicines and other products, as not only does this include extreme cruelty, it's also a lazy means of product testing which fails humans, while better 21st century technology, which could be used for testing, is ignored. So what we want to see is a resolution on the nexus between animal welfare and the environment passed at the United Nations, and we want to see animal welfare included in the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals. And finally, I'm very pleased to say I've just been awarded an MBE in the King's New Year's Honours List for services to animal welfare, which demonstrates how interfaith work and animal welfare are now being valued by the UK government and the King. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're getting there in terms of getting in within the 3 minutes. Can I check with Bani if you can speak now, please, Bani? Okay, I think you still have a problem. So can we go to Ms. Deborah Bourdieu, please?
Good morning, everyone. Hopefully you can hear me. Thank you. Thank you for Ms. Andersen. You spent time with us. My name is Deborah Bourdieu from Buddhist Tzu Chi Foundation. Today is the Chinese New Year. I'm very grateful that my colleagues, everyone can celebrate with me. But at this moment, in Southern California, we are facing the wildfire impact. More and more residents are vulnerably need help. A lot of women, they come to us to ask for emergency financial assistance. Monday, I saw a woman share a bowl of rice with her family because she's the last one to receive the rice bowl. I saw a senior woman. She come to me. My wheelchair has been burned down. I have no mobility. I saw a young girl come to me. My school supplies all burned out. As a Buddhist foundation, since 1966, we promote environmental awareness to the community until now. We see this kind of disasters, we see this kind of situation continue happen again and again and again. I share with you the story of what we are facing right now. This is a long social behavior change process. Buddhist Tzu Chi Foundation, our leader, Dhamma Master, has promoted these actions for so many years, but is still facing the same challenge. We do come out quite a few programs for solutions. We encourage the young generations to join with us, started from their social behavior change. We invite entrepreneurs to support recycling program. We empower the senior to refurbish their medical equipment and supply to share with any community in need. This kind of circular of care, circular of love, circular of economy need to continue to carry on. We see financial assistance just a short term. The long term need to empower them for how to recognize at this moment we need to work together. The work together is not slogan. It's not just a verbiage. It should be an action. So I would like to share with everyone. We currently using AI tool, artificial intelligence, to create a scenario to reflect what they went through, to remind them what will be the best preparation. We are working with various news groups, social media, young generations, learning from the lessons. And we are trying to remind everyone, started from yourself, your community, your family. Let's be ready. The triple climate crisis is coming to us every second, every moment, every day. You need to know how to protect yourself. This kind of message sharing is the most important. Our Dharma Master Zheng Yan always indicate, let's be calm, let's contemplate, and bring us to tranquilization when we're facing the crisis. Respect, gratitude, and love. 3 simple characters. It will be a way for us to survive as a woman on faith, as a sentient being of the universe. So please join with us, circularity of love, and we all need to working together. Faith bring us together. Buddhists are in actions. This kind of teamwork, we all need to work together. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Deborah. Let's check with Bani for 1 second. Then we should have Sister Gayatri Narain. She sent me that she has just onboarded a flight. So we move to Grove Harris as well. Grove is organizing a Faith for Earth session actually on pollution and contributions of faith to INC. So we move to Dr. Hosna Ahmed.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Can you
very
all hear
well.
me? Okay, great. Salams, and I'm delighted, Ms. Inga Andersen, to meet you again. We last met in Riyadh at COP16. As the CEO of a Muslim women-led INGO, which works in the Global South, it's clear that women's empowerment and leadership plays a key role if we are to have a concerted approach to the planetary crisis. Working at the country level, producing faith-sensitive resources, and through our policy and advocacy work, we're able to influence and advise more effectively. My main areas of focus are women, faith, peace, and the triple planetary crisis. We've produced the Green Guide to the Hajj and Umrah, second version in 2021 during COVID, and the first version was in 2011. Also in 2016, we produced the Islamic Farming Toolkit, which I've actually spoken about at a number of panels at COP16 in December. And we actually implemented the Islamic farming both in Nigeria and in Kenya with great success. My next point is about the importance of collaboration and networks. Global One is also a part of Ummah for Earth, which is a network of organizations focused on promoting Muslim youth engagement on climate change. This network has grown now, I think, to over 40 members across the world, and was supported by the Secretariat, which is housed by Greenpeace MENA.
The other network is the Women of Faith Climate Network, which was launched in Baku last November with Mary Robinson. And this network was just one of the 16 recommendations which came out of a meeting which I curated with Jean Duff in 2023 September at Wilton Park. And I'm so pleased that we've got this far. And, you know, so many of the women on this council, mashallah, are part of the network. The other point is collaborating with universities so we can push research and gather data and evidence is also a critical element for policy and advocacy. And this is something I'm working with UNEP on. Obviously, we all know that we cannot do this alone. And I think, you know, this came out, you know, very clearly in the interventions from so many of the sisters here. But, you know, it's a positive step. And if we're going to get this positive step, we need creativity, passion, wisdom, and practical solutions. And I'm sure that we have that in abundance in this council. And my final point is about UNEA 7, which will take place in December of this year in Kenya. There are about 90 FBOs which are accredited. And as the chair of the steering committee for Faith for Earth, I believe this is an excellent opportunity for the FBOs to really have their voice and our women's voices to be heard at different panels and plenaries to really make a contribution towards UNEP's midterm strategy. And I just want to also add, you know, Azza, you were talking about silos, and I think, you know, one thing that I'm excited about is having the mainstreaming of faith and you know, within that, obviously, women within UNEP. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Azza. You almost got the treat, but not quite. Rabbi Jackie Tabek sends her regrets. So I move to Rabbi Jenny Rosen, please.
It's such an honor to be here with this inspiring gathering of women leaders of faith who are all working to protect the earth and our climate and people. So thank you for convening us. I think religious voices and women play such an important role in shaping our narratives and solutions and ensuring central values like human dignity and social justice. My work over the last 30 years has been mobilizing the American Jewish community to address issues of social and economic justice. And I created Dainu, a Jewish call to climate action, 4.5 years ago to really ensure that American Jews are engaging in meaningful strategic climate action together with other communities. So our mission is to join together with other communities to work for a more just and livable and sustainable world for all people. And to confront the climate crisis, we like to say, with spiritual audacity and bold political action. So we grassroots network across the country of Dainu circles that are gathering and training and joining together with other communities to take action to advance solutions to the climate crisis on a national and local level. We partner closely with other organizations and faith groups to ensure that we're really bringing faith voices to the national and global climate movement and working arm in arm with communities that are most directly impacted and most vulnerable to the climate crisis, and ensuring that justice is at the center of how we are approaching the climate crisis. And we think about our work really with 3 pillars: movement building. How are we training up grassroots leaders across the generations to take meaningful action? 2 is bold action to address the climate crisis on a systemic level, helping to pass historic legislation in this country, the Inflation Reduction Act, moving money out of the fossil fuel industry and into clean energy, and electing climate champions. And 3rd is spiritual adaptation. Just like we talk about climate mitigation and adaptation, we need to talk about spiritually adapting, because the climate crisis is not only an ecological and political issue, it's also an issue of the soul. We need to work together to support people to face the anxiety and fear and grief that the climate crisis raises in order to cultivate active hope and ultimately move people into courageous action. So I'll just close by saying that in Jewish tradition, there's a central value of living l'dor vador, we say in Hebrew, which means living generation to generation. And it's so powerful to come together today to envision what a more just and sustainable world could look like, the one that we so desperately need, and to work together so that we can ensure that all people can live and thrive for many generations to come. So thank you for convening us.
Thank you, Rabbi Jenny, and you're getting the treat. And I need to check with Inger. Inger, I know that you have an obligation that you need to attend to, right?
Yes, I'm very, very sorry. I was just writing a message here because I have to step out. My other meeting started 3 minutes ago. So I do ask for your forgiveness for this. I want to express my deep thanks. I've heard really important voices. I leave you with our director, Dr. Patricia Mbote, who is our Director for Environmental Law and a distinguished environmental lawyer by her own in her own regard. And so you are not without senior UNEP presence. You have both Dr. Iyad and Dr. Mbote. But I ask for your forgiveness, and I thank you very much for all that you've done. Thank you so much, and have a good day. Bye-bye now.
Thank you. Thank you very much,
you.
and bye. I got a message from Grove Harris that she is online, and we go back to her. Grove, the floor is yours.
Great. Thank you so much, Dr. Iyad. And I really appreciate your convening us and the opportunity to hear from all of these wonderful women in the work that is all synergistic that we're doing. I do represent the Temple of Understanding, one of the oldest interfaith organizations and one started by a woman. So I agree with Inger Andersen about the subtle and powerful influences of women's leadership, approaching things from a more holistic pattern. I wanted to commend UNEP in particular for the biodiversity COPs, where we've seen that leadership creating an atmosphere where there was much more space for community voices and huge space for lifting up indigenous voices. This is part of the work the Temple of Understanding does with our Eco-Justice for All dialogues, trying to bring the real diversities to the table for meaningful exchange. One of the things we were invited to think about is what we would like to ask UNEP to do over the next 4 years. And I would love to ask for there to be a way that rather than siloing our voices, that we actually could potentially be used to help shift some of the dynamics in these multilateral spaces, because we're seeing repeatedly power dynamics of the calls for too much business influence that are problematic, not enough space for civil society voices to come in, different weighting of these political forces coming together and crashing into a bridged form of consensus. So I would love to see this council and in any way that we could support UNEP in thinking through ways to potentially subtly shift those dynamics while maintaining the independence of obviously the national space. Any support that we could give, I would be really grateful to be utilized. Thank you. And now I do have to run, as you know.
Thank you very much, and thank you, and good luck with the webinar. Let me check with Bani. Bani, can you, are you able to put on your mic?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Please go ahead.
Okay, I am so sorry. I want to thank you very much, Dr. Iyad, and I'm sorry I missed Inger, but it was wonderful to hear her and all of you. This meeting is taking place as we see rapidly shifting global realities, which are prompting a deeper appreciation of humanity's interconnection and interdependence. Amidst the disruption that has been created and accelerated by war and a world which has had a pandemic, there are numerous possibilities for social change that can bring stability to the world and enrich the lives of its inhabitants. I believe women of the world have this tremendous role to play, and we are. Throughout history, periods of turbulence have presented opportunities for us to redefine our collective values and the assumptions that underlie them. And so does the present moment. The range of areas in which established systems and approaches are in need of radical transformation suggests how critical the coming quarter century will be in determining the fortunes of humanity. A growing chorus of voices is calling for decisive steps uh, forward in our collective trajectory toward enduring universal peace. The human family is one. This is a truth that has been embraced by multitudes around the world, and it is very much at the core of Baha'i belief. The natural world, in all its wonder and majesty, offers profound insight into the essence of this interdependence. From the biosphere as a whole to the smallest microcosm, it demonstrates how dependent any one life form is on numerous others, and how imbalances in one system reverberate across an interconnected whole. Baha'i efforts toward environmental sustainability are grounded in this conviction that humanity is organic with the natural world, that the human heart cannot be separated from the environment around it. We have Baha'i communities. They are focused in large part on building capacities that are needed to create lasting change. These capacities to assess local needs and challenges, and for example, to identify local resources and potential paths forward to generate motivation and commitment to respond. Toward this end, the worldwide Baha'i community has been supporting and is steadily expanding a global process of education which is open to all people, that tends to the moral education of the society, but particularly the empowerment of young adolescents, and it assists youth and adults to explore the application of spiritual teachings and ideals such as justice, unity, and moderation to daily life, and the challenges facing society. I could give some examples from different parts of the world, and very quickly, one such can be found in Agua Azul in the Norte de Cauca region of Colombia. And this is an area where sugarcane monoculture has threatened traditional farms and forced residents to lease land to sugar mills and diminish the productive capacity of the soil and the biodiversity of the native ecosystem. These realities, along with the community's long-standing concern for the revival of the natural habitat, were top of the mind when the community prepared and worked with others, and an idea arose to grow a native forest on this land, and we've seen a lot of wonderful developments. This is just one example. We have lots of examples from other parts of the world, but I'll not share them all at this time. I'm sorry for the confusion about my microphone. Thank you.
Thank you, Bani. Thank you very much. I believe Karina Gore is having problems with Teams. So we go with Reverend Kozipa Malawamba. Please, Reverend Kozipa.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the invitation. I'm sorry, my voice is rather rough on the edges. I have a terrible cough. I hope I didn't get into a fit of coughing in the middle of talking. I'll try. So I represent, the World Council of Churches in some sense, being here, and my presence is really a culmination of some of the work, that my colleagues, particularly in the public witness and diaconia, already do on our work on the living planet. So from our side, and I echo, the sentiment from Anne in the LWF, our care for creation is a faith imperative. In 2022, after its assembly, the WCC launched a document called Living Planet, seeking a just and sustainable global community. At the root of that document and all that it expresses is the faith claim that everything is created by God, and yet within ourselves as Christians, we have narrowly understood Christianity from an anthropocentric, understanding. And therefore, within our theologies, created, some of the problems. So that document begins by an internal call to Christians that we must repent of the ways in which we have instrumentalized creation and also inspired, certain, abuses of creation that we see in modern industry in our time. In response, the WCC has specific programs, and that's what I will speak to, as, ways in which, we seek to respond. At the very assembly where this document that I referred to was presented, we also finally constituted a commission on climate justice and sustainable development, which was also a culmination of many years of work, on climate justice. And it has various strands of work that seek to bring together, the critique that I spoke about in our theologies, as well as, how we live, in relation to the rest of creation, but also, the intersecting justice questions of land, food, and water are integrated into the work of this commission. One of the responses, to the question, about our own complicity as Christians to the instrumentalization of creation is the season of creation, of which, the WCC centers in our prayer life. And, prayer is both an appeal to God, but also as a way of recovering and rediscovering the values and ethics that we may have put, to the side. And so these intense moments, or what you might call moments of intensification, like when we observe this season of creation in all of September, is a moment when the Christians gather together, to reaffirm, these values. But within the commission is also the work of experimenting rather than tackling, the whole mammoth of the global economic system, together with others. The WCC works, with what is called the new international, infrastructure for economy. So trying to build models that are based on our thinking of, the ways in which, we have critiqued, the system. How are we ourselves, responding? And so the commission runs, or the program runs a school with particularly young people, many of whom are already engaged in their communities. And so this ongoing work of formation continues to reaffirm the very values, but also continues to grow the work, and deepen, our commitment. And at formation level, we have several others, like for instance, in the Bosse Ecumenical Institute, which is owned, by the WCC, we have a course on the ecological turn in theology, which affirms the same values, but targets particularly young people. The greening of campuses, in theological education, and also greening of curriculum is a program that is related to this work, where we have different theological institutes coming together, to peer review each other, in regard to, how green are their campuses and how green are their curricula. I think I'll leave it there for now, just to keep within time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Reverend Kuzipa. So I move to Ms. Lucy Plummer.
Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be here together with all of you. So I'm Lucy, and I'm a member of Soke Gakkai International, or SGI. We're an international community-based organization promoting peace, culture, and education based on the Buddhist teaching on respect for the dignity of life. SGI is committed to building a sustainable world for future generations, addressing the climate crisis and protecting and caring for the ecosystems of Earth. At the UN, SGI is engaging in various UN environmental processes from the perspective of people's empowerment, including promoting human rights, building solidarity and supporting meaningful youth engagement. We are engaged in various interfaith collaborations, including co-chairing the Impact Coalition for Faith-Based Solutions, which supports the implementation of the UN Pact for the Future. And one area of our work that I would like to briefly highlight is our advocacy around ethical approaches to decision-making in UN environmental processes. As we know, faith-inspired values such as non-violence, compassion, and solidarity with those who are suffering the most are crucial for tackling environmental problems in a way that aligns with and upholds core UN principles, including human rights, peace and security, and sustainability. And in this regard, faith actors are key allies and advocates for the UN, and strengthening partnerships between the UN and faith actors is a strategy that can greatly help the UN in achieving its goals for a more just, equitable, and sustainable future for people and the planet. In addition, faith actors can help build support for the UN at the community and grassroots level. Grassroots solidarity is crucial for the years to come as we strive towards the goal of achieving the SDGs by 2030. Without the support of the individuals and communities on the ground, the vision of SDGs will remain unfulfilled. Stronger partnerships with faith actors can support the UN in building this grassroots solidarity and have a huge role to play in bringing about the future that all of us here today envision. And as a member of the UNEP Interfaith Women Council, I think I can speak for everyone here when I say that we are ready to get to work with UNEP on addressing key issues related to women and girls and the environment. And we are excited for what we will achieve together over the coming months and years with the great support of the entire UNEP Faith for Earth family. And I'll leave it there. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you very much, Lucy. You're getting another special treat. The younger generation always gets it the right way. So thank you very much. Let me move to Ms. Marin Wara, please.
Thank you, Dr. Ed. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone. I'm so glad to be here today, calling in from Nairobi, Kenya. So I work with Green Faith, which is a global multi-faith climate justice organization. And when I was listening to Rabbi Jenny, I was like, oh, wait, is she describing Green Faith? Because there are so many similarities, which is amazing. So the conversation around how women bring, women bring in this climate justice discourse is one that is very close to my heart. In most cases, we have very vibrant, well thought out policies. But those policies in most cases do not seek, the consent, do not seek the ideas, do not seek the enrichment that the grassroots communities give. Women are disproportionately affected at the grassroots level, but at the same time are a massive source of resources in terms of implementation, in terms of development, and even in terms of message dissemination. When we want to disseminate messaging at a vast level, at the community level, women will do that through their own different ways in which they do it. So having grassroots women of faith for climate justice, as we call it in Green Faith, that we launched in 6 African countries just last year, which is Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Nigeria, Ghana, and DRC Congo. And this is special to the role of women in energy transition or the role of women in renewable energy initiatives. We talk a lot about energy transition in our own countries, but we do not go deep to look at how do women, how do women deal at the grassroots level when we want to look at renewable energy consumption, especially at the household level. Now, the fossil fuel industries have caused a great havoc in the community. The compensations and the engagements always go to the men, but the women and girls and the elderly are left vulnerable, while they are the ones who drive the energy justice agenda at the grassroots level. So having an initiative that looks into what happens, that lifts grassroots stories, that looks into how the grassroots stories then define or support policy at the regional level, at the national level, and how those policies then get to be challenged or productive at the global level is what Green Faith does through grassroots circles of women, through collecting of stories on how the impact of climate change has been, with specification on the fossil fuel industry, and also looking into, in a large extent, the superpower of Africa in terms of renewable energy consumption. And so I'm looking forward to see how best we can collaborate, as was discussed by Dr. Husna. Collaboration then becomes very powerful, so that that person who cannot go to the community to collect those grassroots stories then gets the grassroots stories from that person who is doing it at the grassroots, so that that person can use those stories as meaningful data to implement or define a policy at the national level or at the regional level, which can also be used for resource mobilization at the global level. So I'm looking forward, Dr. Iyad, to seeing how best we can contribute in this space as we drive the climate justice agenda, with specification on looking at the nexus between climate justice and health, climate justice and education, climate justice and security, because also there are very, very different and pertinent issues of security that happens at the grassroots level. Thank you so much. I give it back to you.
Thank you very much, Miriam. Can I ask Grandmother Mona Polaka, please, to take the floor?
First of all, I'd just like to greet each and every one of you. Thank you very much, and apologies for joining late. I was having trouble, I guess, with like a lot of other people getting on the team. I'm speaking to you from the land and territory of the Thana O'odham Nation in Tucson, Arizona, in the United States, and I am come from the people of the Blue Water, the Havasupai people on my mother's side, from down at the bottom of the Grand Canyon, and I'm also on my father's side of the Pueblo nations of Hopi and Tewa. I'm a member of the International Council of 13 Indigenous Grandmothers. We just are celebrating our 20th year as a council, which is a group of Indigenous women from all over the world who are the keepers and protectors of our earth-based medicine, our culture, our spiritual practices and beliefs. And I am also I also work with the Indigenous Environmental Network as the Indigenous Water Ethics Coordinator. And I'm sorry I missed much of the presentations here this morning. But I'm looking forward to getting to know about each and every one of you, and also to I'm happy to be a part of the council. The grandmothers are, as well as the Indigenous Environmental Network, we are carrying what we call the basic call to consciousness, which is to remind humanity of the responsibility that we have to preserve and protect all of the life-giving foundations of life: the water, the air, the fires, the sun, and Mother Earth. And so what little I've heard, it sounds like we are all carrying that same mission. And it's important, I believe, that and timely that the UNEP has created this opportunity for us as women of faith or spiritual practices and beliefs to put our minds together, our hearts, and the important relationship we have with all of creation, being that we are life givers. And so it's a real honor and according to our indigenous worldview, this is the time of the woman. We are now in the time of the woman, or what is known as the lunar lunar calendar, and which is of the feminine. And so there is much work for us to do, and I'm grateful to see such distinguished women. And in our ways, we make a relationship with anyone that we step into a circle with, and so in that way, I look at this as a sisterhood, and of as well as what I think of as a spirit net. This net of like minds and hearts and spirits for us to be putting our thoughts and our feelings, our hopes, and our, as well as the traditions that we come from. So I'm grateful to join you and look forward to participating in all of the future activities that we have up ahead of us. Thank you.
Thank you. We're grateful to you, Grandmother Mona. Thank you very much. Miss Rachel Afiki, I think she's not online. She comes from New Zealand, and I think it's another day in New Zealand. So I move to Reverend Rachel Mash, please.
Good afternoon, everybody, and so amazing to meet with this wonderful, inspiring group of women. I want to reflect a little bit on some opportunities within the Anglican Communion where we're looking at empowering the voice of women. So there's three levels, really. The first is young prophetic voices. Trying to get young people, in particular women's voices, to be heard at advocacy levels, whether it's at the local level, fighting sewerage in the municipality, whether it's at the national level, the Presidential Climate Commission, or whether it's actually getting them to COP and the international United Nations events. So we've got two programs. One is the Green Anglicans of Africa, and then we also have a ecumenical group which is called Climate Youth Ecumenical Summit. And then on the grass levels, within the Anglican Church, we do have a very, very strong movement of women, which is called the Mothers' Union. So particularly in Africa, each church will have a Mothers' Union. And last year, we just started a movement called the Mothers' Union Eco Champs, where each diocese would have an eco champ who would be empowered to work within the branches within her diocese. And then the third area is in the area of women clergy. It's fascinating to see, although the numbers of women clergy are very small compared to the men, generally they are the ones who are doing the environmental work, the environmental services, producing the environmental prayers. And in particularly, we have got our women bishops who are few, but we have a movement called eco bishops. And in Africa, we only have 6 women bishops, but they are all active members of the eco bishops movement. And they're currently meeting in Lesotho, and they are one of the issues right on the table is climate justice. And our very first woman bishop in Africa, the late Bishop Elena Wamukoya, she always said, I believe God brought me to this time of being a bishop because I know the pain of carrying water on my head and feeling it fall. And at the moment with UNEP, we have a very important moment. We have the opportunity to make a transformational difference in terms of plastic pollution. You know, the plastic treaty is being worked on at the moment, and we have a group of countries that are saying that we must not include reducing the production. There's 2 groups of countries. There's High Ambition Coalition, who are saying, let us turn off the tap, let us reduce the production of plastic. And there are what we call the like-minded group, who are saying, no, it's fine. This is a waste problem. It's not a plastic problem. And we know that 3.4% of global emissions are coming from plastic. The fossil fuel companies are pushing plastic on us. So can we as women faith leaders bring the impact of plastic on our health, on the health of our unborn babies, on the health of children, on the health of women, on the health of those who work in the plastic industry, and the health of our food, and help to shift the like-minded countries, so-called, so that they would become high ambition. So I would love to plea that we put this issue of the plastic treaty very firmly as maybe one of our agendas to bring the health impacts of women, children, and unborn babies to the party. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Reverend Rachel. And I move to Dr. Sadhvi Saraswati. Please go ahead, Sadhvi.
Yes.
All right.
I hope that you can hear me. I've been through three different venues for the call this evening. I began in our camp. I'm currently in the Mahakumbha Mela, which is the largest gathering of humanity on earth. We had over 100 million people bathe together yesterday, and they're expecting up to 500 million total during the course of the event. So in our camp, though, there's only one place, which is our prayer hall, that actually has Wi-Fi. So I was there for the beginning, and then when I realized I wasn't gonna be able to speak in time, I got them to drive me actually to this other place where I've taken over somebody's office. So I'm very happy that I'm able to actually connect. I wasn't sure I was going to be able to. I wanted to just first of all share my deep gratitude to you, Iyad, and the whole UNEP team for bringing us together and convening this. And it's such an honor and such a joy to be together to celebrate the power of the role that women individually and collectively are playing already and can play in even bigger and stronger ways for the environment. Just really quickly, because I did hear the part about our 3-minute rule and prize. So instead of speaking to all of the work that the Global Interfaith WASH Alliance is doing, I think I'll just speak for a moment on the work that we're doing right here in the Kumbh Mela, because it really symbolizes in many ways a lot of it, which is that we are dedicated to the idea that our definition of peace must expand. And it must expand to include ensuring that people have access to clean water, to sanitation, to hygiene, to air to breathe, to water to drink, to soil to use. And so that was really a founding principle. And one of the many ways that we work is to really harness the power of the biggest events, the biggest religious events where people are primed already to be inspired and touched and motivated by religious leaders, and to not only inspire them on what you could think of as traditional religious ways or ways of attaining what we call moksha or liberation or heaven, but actually to create heaven right on earth here in these human bodies. And so, for example, during previous Kumbh Melas, we've used the opportunity to do major campaigns around ending open defecation, around removing the taboo of menstruation and ensuring that girls have access to not only the education around it, but actually that schools have toilets in them, and that the toilets have doors on them, and places where the girls can actually take care of themselves, and that taboo is removed. We've used it to do campaigns, major campaigns, like Guinness Book award-winning campaigns around ending early child marriage, And this one, we are really focused on two main points. One is union, and the other is environmental protection. And just 15 seconds on the union one, that this place is so holy, and the reason that it's this major, unprecedented scope of event is that it's a place in which three sacred rivers come together into a confluence. And we've used that as a symbol, speaking about it's not just three different rivers, but it's all people coming together, of every race, of every religion, every color, of every country, of every creed, of every caste. And that when we come together, that's where holiness is, and that's where sacredness is, and that's where liberation is. And we've been using it in a huge way around environmental protection. Our camp is actually the only camp in the Mela, I think, that is eco-friendly and sustainable. Most of them are built with tons of these massive styrofoam things, literally building like castles and palaces out of styrofoam. And our camp has no styrofoam, no plastic. It's entirely eco-friendly. And we make a big, we tell people about that. We've had all of the top VIPs, everybody comes, it's in the news every day, and making sure to tell people that this camp is highlighting another confluence of spirituality, sustainability, and what we say in Hindi is sundarta, which means beauty. So showing that spirituality and sustainability also go together with beauty, and that in order to be beautiful, you don't have to be unsustainable. So the whole camp is eco-friendly. We are plastic free. We've got huge things of free filtered water for everyone to drink. There's cups there. In India, people drink from above anyway. They don't stick their mouth on the cup. So there's cups there that everybody's using. We've got thousands and thousands and thousands of steel water bottles that we're giving out to people to fill up. So we're doing that on the ground. And then just lastly, in all of the major events, we're using the platforms of these huge stages with tens of thousands of people to talk about the importance of protecting the environment and our clean water, and that if there's no water, there's no Kumbh Mela, there's no sacred bath. Like, this whole thing is only possible because of water, and this water comes from glaciers, and if the glaciers melt, and kind of really just connecting the dots for people who don't realize the ripple impact of industries that are spewing their waste into the air with the water that is available for them to bathe in, and really connecting the dots and getting people to raise their hands in these huge pledges that they will plant trees, that on birthdays and anniversaries and all sorts of celebrations, graduations, that they will plant trees, that they will gift trees to people. So I think my 3 minutes are up. I have a lot more to say, but I'll end here. And just that we've really been honored to have incredible success over the many, many years in harnessing the power of these festivals to really catalyze and augment the rest of the work that we are doing throughout the intervening years.
Thank you, Dr. Sadvi. Your 13 minutes were up, but I think working with hundreds of millions of people, you deserve that. Thank you very much. So I move to Reverend Susan Hendershot. Please, Susan.
Thank you, Dr. Iyad. It's good to see all of you today, and I do want to thank UNEP for this opportunity, and Dr. Iyad for all of your work in pulling this august body together. I'm so pleased to be a part of it. Reverend Susan Hendershot, for 14 years, my work has been focused on working through the Interfaith Power and Light Network in the US. And I am actually in transition now to another role, but but much of my learning has come from this time that I have done this work. And I would say a couple of things. A lot of the work that we've done with faith communities in the US has been around connecting the dots between the triple planetary crisis and all of the ways that it touches so many other issues that all of us care about and have been working on, both through the UN process and outside of it. And two things in particular that I would point to with the work that we've been doing, I think of as the two sides of one coin, which is how this is about personal action, the way that we live in the world, and the things that we do personally to decarbonize our homes, decarbonize our places of worship, and mitigate for climate change in that way. And the other side of that is how we take policy action. We know that we cannot get as far as we need to go, as quickly as we need to go, without the proper policies in place. I would ask for all of your prayers and loving kindness and good wishes to us working in the US right now as we are pushing a rock uphill and for the next few years with actions that have already been taken here, especially in terms of policy actions. And so one of the things I'll just say quickly is, you know, why it is that I personally care about this and why I want to be a part of this council is because I do believe that women and vulnerable populations are heavily impacted by the triple planetary crisis, but also, as has been stated by others already, we are not solely victims. We are powerful individuals, and when we act together, we can make a difference. Women historically care about deepening relationships. They care about protecting their families and their communities. They hold indigenous and grassroots knowledge of solutions. And putting all of that into action together is extremely powerful. And I think in particular, when we act from our faith values, from love and compassion, our sense of justice, and from a sense of hope for the future, that we can be true change agents in the world. And so I'm just so grateful to be here with all of you. And again, thank you, Dr. Iyad, for pulling us together. And I will give whatever remaining time I have back.
Thank you very much, Reverend Susan. So I go to Ms. Veronica Raya. The floor is yours, please. I believe Ms. Raya is with us, right?
Yes, I'm right here.
Okay, go ahead. Thank you.
Giving thanks for another day, for another to be here. Greetings to you all. I'm very honored to be here with all of you and being part of this wonderful meeting. I come from a community of people of working to preserve the spiritual and cultural traditions of the indigenous people of the Americas. And through these cultural practices, we try to enhance human development through the ceremonies and all of the different practices of our ancestors, trying to bring social change that advocates and supports sustainable development that protects Mother Earth and foster her renewal and healing. I come from a central part of Mexico, growing up in an urban setting where it's very easily all these traditions and all these spiritual teachings in an urban settings are very easily lost. So I thank my grandmother, far removed from her community, for teaching me all this. And once I became an elder myself, I'm trying to teach and preserve all this in the urban setting of New York City, which is very hard. All these traditions are being lost. And why it's important that we teach all this to the young generations is because once we recuperate this traditions, this spirituality that was lost to us, and that some of us are very far removed from it, this tradition of spirituality in the indigenous setting is respect for all, respect for Mother Earth, knowing that we are all part of this planet Earth, and that when we damage something, we're damaging ourselves and all of us. So it's very important to teach the young generation all this, so they will be able to understand and be aware that once they learn these traditions and they start practicing all these traditions, they will be working to preserve Mother Earth in any way that we can. And also by healing ourselves with these practices, we are healing Mother Earth too. So thank you. And it's a great pleasure to be here.
Thank you very much. Great pleasure to having you with us. Ms. Yukiko Yamada has had to leave. So I go to our final speaker, Professor Patricia Mbote, who is my boss. And I hope, Patricia, you forgive me for keeping you late, and that does not affect my performance review. So the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Iyad. It's really been a great joy to participate in this meeting. And I'd really like to thank all the participants for the contributions they've made to this inaugural Interfaith Women Council meeting. We see your role as very crucial in advancing sustainable development and environmental protection. From the discussions this evening, we have noted that women-led organizations are champions of informal governance, that women act as custodians of cultural, spiritual, and community traditions, especially in the indigenous and faith-based communities. Your leadership is pivotal to advancing sustainable practices. Recognizing and empowering women's roles within informal systems is essential for justice and inclusivity, and can address enforcement gaps in environmental protections. In many cultural and religious contexts, gender-based restrictions and challenges are common and exacerbate persistent inequalities. These restrictions underscore the broader challenges women face in accessing leadership opportunities in environmental governance without disregarding cultural traditions. The role of religious, ethical, and cultural teachings that we've spoken about here can promote environmental justice and promote human rights and the rights of indigenous people, including recognizing the role of indigenous knowledge. Women's participation in environmental governance can contribute to the development of more inclusive policies, which are often more effective in addressing the three planetary crises of climate change, biodiversity loss, and pollution, and also for promoting sustainable development. Additionally, women tend to bring innovative perspectives to the formulation and implementation of solutions. Recognizing and integrating informal governance systems, particularly those led by women, is necessary. And this includes using the ethical, religious, and moral teachings to foster environmental stewardship, as exemplified by the documents that have been talked about here a lot, Al-Mizan, Laudato Si, and the Buddhist Middle Path Doctrine. Environmental protection can draw from these teachings to instill and promote behavioral change towards sustainable development. Informal norms can also be leveraged to promote community-driven accountability to rehabilitate degraded ecosystems and promote intergenerational equity. Other actors, including the private sector, can be encouraged to integrate these informal norms into their due diligence processes, emphasizing the respect for local traditions, women's role in environmental protection, and community practices. This can involve partnerships, and I think we've talked about partnerships a lot here. Partnerships with different groups, including grassroots organizations, faith-based initiatives, which can co-create sustainable supply chains and support ecosystem restoration efforts, taking gender-responsive approaches into internal policies. Additionally, informal systems can be used to address gaps in enforcement and resource constraints in informal systems, tailoring solutions to specific contexts. And the role of women-led organizations in multilateral environmental governance and in grassroots faith-based and indigenous initiatives can be encouraged to ensure that women participate in decision-making. The dialogue we have had here, bringing together women faith leaders, fosters intergenerational and gender-inclusive collaboration by advocating the inclusion of women, particularly those from faith-based communities, the council, to ensure that gender equality is prioritizing climate action and sustainability efforts. Your leadership in bringing moral and spiritual perspectives into environmental discourses contributes to UNEP's work in addressing the 3 planetary crises, promoting collaborative action, building coalitions, and ensuring that environmental solutions are both inclusive and sustainable. The environmental rule of law is foundational for environmental protection. Effective environmental governance, a core plank of the environmental rule of law, requires recognizing and integrating informal practices, indigenous knowledge, grassroots efforts, and adaptive solutions to complement formal legal structures. This approach leads to more inclusive, equitable, and effective environmental outcomes for people and the planet. And I do laud you all for the work that you're doing, which is amazing and is going to contribute to a better planet for people. Thank you very much for your participation, and apologies again for keeping you so late.
Thank you very much, Dr. Patricia, and thank you for your support to the Faith for Earth Coalition. And thanks to each and every one of you for participating today, for staying so long, and for all the excellent work that you have been doing over the years. We're just bringing you together as part of our efforts to network, but you can move mountains. We know that. The power that you already have speaks by itself. So thank you very much. We will stay in contact with you. We will share with you whatever comes out of this meeting, and we hope to connect with you soon. Thank you very much. Have a good evening, good afternoon, and a good day, everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much.